my favorite piece of content from the World Cup is this German woman getting down in a black club in Houston, Texas. Like she has lost her, I don't know if it was Bun B playing or somebody, but she was like, she had lost her. She was like, this is the most amazing music I've ever heard in my entire life. And people were just like, go ahead and get it, mama.
I think this World Cup overall has been beautiful because of how these visitors are experiencing America and understand that we are not defined by the ugliness of Donald Trump.
Hey y'all, it's Brittany. Different day, different hair, different sweatshirt. Now, throughout this episode, you'll see me happily jumping on the Knicks bandwagon. I did it with absolutely no shame. New York City is on a generational run, and quite frankly, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss out on the party. But I grew up a Chicago Bulls fan, not just because St. Louis did not have a National Basketball Association team when I was a kid. There was no NBA presence, but because my daddy was a Chicagoan until Chicago ends. I fondly remember watching finals games with him, going up about Pippen and Jordan and Rodman. But I also think about him talking about sports beyond the Bulls. I think about him talking about the pride that he felt in people like Muhammad Ali and how he represented not just a sport, but a people far outside of the ring. Sports and politics have always been deeply interconnected. You've got issues of race, gender, class, all of the above intersecting on a rink or a court. And at the end of the day, if we want to talk politics, we also got to talk sports. Because if this is a thing that brings us all together, then why not let this be a place where we have the conversations that matter? That's why we got to stay undistracted. So our guest today has spent over 2 decades insisting that sports and politics were never actually separate. Jemele Hill won an Emmy for her work on ABC's The President and the People. She spent over a decade at ESPN, including co-anchoring SportsCenter 6, before a 2017 tweet calling Donald Trump a white supremacist, which I thought we all understood, turned her into a flashpoint in a much bigger fight over who gets to speak and who's expected to stay quiet. She left at ESPN not long after, became a contributing writer at The Atlantic, wrote the memoir Uphill, and co-founded the production company Lodge Freeway Media. These days, she's hosting not one but 2 podcasts, Spolitics and Flagrant and Funny, the women's sports show she co-hosts with our girl, Carrie Champion. So she was, of course, my go-to person to talk with about the WNBA, the World Cup, and everything else in the world of sports. Jemele, welcome back to Undistracted. So glad to have you.
It's a pleasure to be back on here on this award-winning podcast.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Thank you. News of our Webby has preceded us.
Yes. And listen, I know your inclination was probably to go to Tiffany Cross when it came to the sports
Listen,
stuff.
Tiffany is the sports guru in the crew.
She's the sports guru, so I'm glad that you settled upon me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for saying yes. I don't know if you know, in the MNBA, the Knicks won the championship, so I wore this sweatshirt just in case you needed to. Okay. Anyway.
In case I need to be reminded. I got you.
I'm just trying to help out. Anyway, before we get started, we ask all of our guests, how are you doing today in just 3 words?
Well, today, I'm a little frazzled, to be honest, just because my day has been loaded. Right before I joined you, I had another therapy session with my mother.
Now listen, that's an episode in and of itself.
That could be an episode in itself. But it's good, though, because we know that they're, probably for most of the Black folks in her generation, like the idea of going to therapy was like, whatever. Mm-hmm. But this was not my idea, by the way. This was hers.
Oh.
So, yeah, she was already doing some individual therapy. And admittedly, as what happens with mothers and daughters, like we have gone through some rocky points in our relationship.
It happens.
And so it happened. So it felt like this was a very necessary step for us to take if we are, just trying to reframe our relationship and get over some of those generational traps that tend to affect Black women and their daughters. So yes, it's been very positive.
That's good. So frazzled, but hopeful and positive. I'm with that.
Yep. There you go.
Those are 3 good words. Yeah, we might have to have you come back to talk all about that. Anyway, starting with the good news, not the MNBA, but the WNBA. Let's talk about that. They negotiated a huge new deal for themselves. They got a massive pay increase for this season and increased their overall earnings 5-fold, raising the minimum salary from $66,000 to $300,000. It was a massive victory that splashed into the popular zeitgeist. but they're still not being paid, of course, at the same proportion of league income as MNBA players. You can see that this is a theme for me. I'm officially calling it that. But it was clearly a hard won victory, to say the least. Players started their own successful rival league for negotiating muscle. Talk a little bit about why this is a big deal. I mean, you've been a W fan and a women's basketball fan for a long time.
This is huge. I mean, the very first professional beat I ever had during my time as a professional journalist. And by the way, I appreciate that you said over 2 decades, because next year it's going to be 3 decades. So thank
We
you
don't
for
have to count the 3. We still in it 2.
Thank you for
It's
keeping
cool.
it close to 2,
We
even
still
though
in it 2.
I'm knocking on 3. But no, it was my first professional beat, and I think about where they were in 1997. It was a 28 game season. They play well over 40 now, and as part of the new CBA, they will be playing 50 games next season, which is incredible. And you mentioned the pay and salary increases, which are staggering and gigantic. And I just encourage people. I know that it's really easy to compare it to the MNBA, but the comparison that should be made is where the MNBA was after 30 years, and then look at where the WNBA was after 30 years. And let me tell you, the WNBA has lapped the field to where the men were. Like after 30 years, like they were in serious financial trouble.
Yeah.
And the WNBA has certainly gone through some growing pains and some spurts of disinterest and some ups and some downs. But that's normal for a league as it's trying to build this foundation. But after 30 years, the WNBA has a lot to be proud of. This CBA is historic because you'll have rookies that come in making 6-figure salaries out of the gate. You'll have we have WNBA millionaires as well. Obviously, there's room to grow. But I think where they are now, revenue-wise, with the expansion teams coming in, with the interest this league continues to generate, the future looks so alarmingly bright.
Yeah.
That, probably in another 15 years, there'll be another generation of WNBA fans who won't know any different than $1 million players and media coverage and all of these other things. So that part has been really amazing and awesome to see, that all the sweat equity that the pioneers put in, that it got the league to this point to where these young women can say, I only have to be in the WNBA to provide a financially robust lifestyle for myself.
I'm curious if you think that the brands led the way on the league shifting or if they followed. I mean, now you tune into a game and you see Sephora seat covers, right? I mean, Angel Reese has a gajillion endorsements. I got some A1s for Mother's Day last year, right? And it's clear that the women of the league have been very creative in building their own lanes for a long time. But I'm curious, do you think that the CBA helped the brands get clear on just how bankable these players are, or were some of those deals that were inked what helped bring the league along?
With the WNBA, it was already growing. The growth was steady, but then explosion happened, because then you bring Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese in the league at the same time after what we saw occur in college. And even though it was dramatic, even though there was a lot to it, a lot to unpack with why that was, right? Sometimes you need a moment. You need a lightning strike, and the lightning strike happened. And I think because the access point is a little easier in getting in to support the WNBA, that also made it an attractive financial option. The Lakers, I think they're the last NBA team to be sold. They sold for $10 billion. You can get in on a WNBA team now for around $300 million. Very different access point. So now you have investors flocking. They're like, oh, I can get in for this. And this league has huge upside, and the ceiling continues to expand. You're right, I'm in. And now you're seeing where the league before used to try to capitulate to a certain image of what they wanted these women to be. But now it's not that way anymore. You got your Barbies, you got your studs, you got every manner of women. The stud buds is my girl. I love them. You even look at the promising, amazing rookie right now, Olivia Miles. She out there full blown Afro, serving buckets.
That's right.
And being her authentic self as she does it. It's like these women were like, you gonna learn to like it. And that was their approach. And the brands have followed. and they understand this was an untapped market that they didn't even really think about. So now that they have this incredible brand support that's growing, I think they had to force themselves to be seen. And
Mm,
as you know, that's not easy to do, especially if you're talking about a league that is dominated by Black women and queer women.
yeah.
Not easy to do. But the one thing about their fan base that's very different than the others is they have a young fan base that's very
Yeah.
technologically savvy, that kind of the authenticity is what draws them to it. The
Yeah.
very thing that sometimes the league in its early inception tried to suppress is the thing that's working for them now.
That's
And
right.
so yeah, so I think it's been a wonderful thing to see the brands finally get on board, and I think the money possibility for this league is just really quite staggering.
I think when you bring up sexuality, race, these are the things that the league tried to tamp down. And to your point, that authenticity, that diversity is what makes it so appealing. There's also, I think, a bit of a difference in terms of the outspoken political nature of this league. The WNBA, of course, has been one of the few places in society where really visible women, especially Black and queer women, have been vocally against Trump's agenda. You got Liberty players wearing Kamala Harris shirts. You got Dream players who endorsed Raphael Warnock, even though his opponent, Kelly Loeffler, was a co-owner of the team, right? So they really let it be known. I don't care who signs the checks. I still stand for what I stand for. Why do you think that boldness exists in the W so uniquely? And do you think it will continue now that there's more money on the line?
The boldness exists because most of the women that are in the league have constantly had to fight for dignity and respect.
Yeah.
Women's sports, while it's grown a lot, I'm sure a lot of them remember a lot of the indignities they had to suffer of maybe their practice
Mm-hmm.
times having to be around when the men played or when the boys
Mm-hmm.
played, or that support not being there, or them having to often play with boys and prove over and over again, I'm just as good as you, or I belong just like you belong. I love this game and have this passion just like you do. So when
Yeah.
you're in that mode, it's natural for you to fight.
Yeah.
It's natural for you to say, like, I deserve this. And it's really interesting because we know that the disparity in salary between, NBA players and women's players. But yet,
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned, when they put themselves on the line for Raphael Warnock against another WNBA owner, they weren't making any money. If anything, they should be the ones that's trying to protect their little crumbs
Right.
and be like, yo, we ain't got it like that to
Right.
be out here, calling out this WNBA owner, throwing our support behind her opponent. We don't have it that way. But yet that only made them bolder. And
Yeah.
it kind of in ways shamed the men because it's like you sitting on millions of dollars and you ain't doing nothing. All right.
Yeah.
And so what's
Yeah.
your excuse? Right. Now, the other half of your question about will this new influx of money and interest, will it change
Mm-hmm.
so much about how these women have operated? And I'm going to say it probably will. Now, will it be as
That's
stark
promising.
as what
Sure.
we see?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're already seeing some changes to where it's like, oh, okay. I don't know that, I guess time will tell. And I'm hoping that this doesn't go the way that I've seen many other similar journeys go, where the money starts coming and
Mm,
everybody's like, yo, we got to protect this bag. But I think right now, and this is the beauty of the leadership that they have, and having Nneka Ogwumike be the president,
incredible.
having, yeah, she's incredible,
Yeah.
having like OGs like Courtney Williams and Alicia Clark, and like there's a lot of OGs still in this that
Yeah.
they have shown the way about how they supposed to move. And I hope that continues, and I hope the younger people that are in it carry on that same spirit, which is why the presence of somebody like Olivia Miles and even Paige Beckers gives me a lot of hope that it can
Yeah.
continue. It just may
Yes.
look a little differently just because, they Gen Z. So, like, it's going to look
Uh-huh.
different, but that doesn't make it bad. Because much like the men are facing, this next generation of basketball players, like, realize, or this current generation and beyond, they came in with a bag. Like, Angel Reese came to the league as a
That's
millionaire.
right.
Like,
That's
so,
right.
like, that's a different mentality, all
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
like, hold on, I
Dynamic
already
is
got
different.
something, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that that doesn't become a bit of an antidote to the thing that made the league special. And
Mm.
I think their fans though have a different expectation, and they're okay. They're used to not being necessarily always mainstream palatable. But I do have some concerns that like right
Yeah.
now, for example, in the WNBA, there's not a single black woman who's a head coach in the league. Not one.
Yeah.
Zero. That league is 70-ish% black.
That's right.
That's embarrassing. And I've been a little disappointed because I haven't heard any players really speak about this, because that should
Mm-hmm.
not be the case at all. And even if they're just advocating for the black assistants that are already in the league that
Right.
deserve an opportunity. And see, that's the other thing is that, see, that money starts coming in, and the people who are making the decisions then automatically start handing that money to men. And I'm like, no, no, no,
Mm.
no, no, no. And that's what we're seeing. It's like, you like, yo, it's a formula that built this league. And I'm not saying that men can't coach, but what I am
No.
saying is that if you're gonna be a women's league, be a women's league.
That's
And the
right.
levers of power need to default be women. All
That's
right. And
right.
the men have to extra earn their way in to prove that
Hello.
they really deserve to be there. And so I'm a little surprised that that hasn't been a bigger conversation
Hmm.
among the players. And I think it should be, because they're the ones that can force the action on that.
If there's gonna be a pay gap in sports, let's make
Right.
sure that there's not a gender pay gap in the women's
In the
NBA.
women's
Okay,
league.
like
Right.
come on, man.
Yeah.
Before we get off of the W, I have to talk. We have to talk about a thing that you don't always like to talk about. I'm gonna be honest
Mm.
with you. You mentioned them earlier. We have to talk about Caitlin Clark.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't
We have to
enjoy
talk
talking about her
about it. And I
sometimes.
I know
Yeah.
that you're not like opposed to talking about her, but her
Right.
fans can be very rabid.
Correct.
And there is a really bright line between how people feel about her. Nobody exists in the middle. Folks either love that girl or love to hate her. Fans on both sides feel really strongly. Some people feel like the W really favors Caitlyn, and others claim that the league doesn't protect her enough. Um, Clearly, especially given the cultural moment, if you will, that occurred between Caitlyn and Angel before they both came to the league. This is an allegory for race as much as it is anything else, as much as it is skill, stats, right? That is crystal clear to near everybody. And a lot of folks are frustrated by Caitlyn's fans in particular, and clear accusations of racism against Black players and Black fans. I'm curious from your perspective if you think that the women's league will have the ability to break through on race in a way that other sports have not, right? Or are we like stuck in a Joe Louis and whatever white man he was boxing moment, right? And it's just always going to be that.
I mean, because in some ways we would like to think women might be a little bit more elevated, but um, no, because you know what, the WNBA unfortunately still takes place in America, and no
Yeah.
matter what, there's a certain amount of racial pornography that this entire country feeds on and produces constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that that cultural moment happened because Angel Reese is Black.
Hello.
Like, two white girls getting into it like that, there would have been
Black and
nothing.
excellent. Let's be clear.
Black and excellent, correct.
Yeah.
But two white girls getting into it like that, no one
Not
cares
news.
about that. Is that when you change it up, that's when it's like, okay, now we spicy.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got something else. And it is unfortunate, because while some of that, we would be naive to think that some of that did not help and assist in the growth of the WNBA in terms of
Yeah.
popularity, viewership, eyeballs, it totally did.
Yeah.
And I don't think as a public, frankly, we're mature enough to not devolve the situation into that. But historically, these are the moments that have stood out. I mean, boxing feeds off racial animosity as part.
Yeah.
They made it a part of their marketing plan. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be Black and white, whether it be Mexican and Black, like it's what
Mm-hmm.
it is. And I think part of this rabidness, like, we know that there are some fans who have used Caitlin Clark in her own brilliance as an avatar to
Mm-hmm.
get off everything they've ever wanted to say about
Ever.
Black women. Ever. Like they just do it. Like it's
We
just
monkeys and apes, and they
correct.
making
Like
fun of
they,
the nails and the hair and the
yes, they don't even like
yikes.
basketball. They just hate Black women. It's just what it is. Right. And so that element is unfortunately probably not going anywhere. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was probably way more overwhelming than the WNBA thought it would be. They didn't
Mm,
handle it well. I don't think the brass, the leadership handled it well in addressing this. I don't know. Frankly, it's hard for me to come up with a solution in which ways they could have done it
yeah.
because social media is a beast unto itself, and you're not going to be able to shut down people from taking it to the level in which they took it to. But I just hope I just have a really low expectation. One day,
Mm,
I hope we're able to talk about Caitlin Clark in a normal fashion, just
yeah.
as a basketball player. That's it.
Yeah. I
I
get
hope that
that.
comes.
I do think, and this is me saying this, not Jemele Hill. This is Brittany Packnett Cunningham saying this because I got
Yeah,
some feelings about Caitlyn.
get it to her. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I mean, this is not anything I haven't said publicly before. I don't think that Caitlyn has taken enough responsibility. Do I think that it all should be on her shoulders? No. Do I think that the idea that she has no responsibility is fair either? No, I don't. But then she
Right.
walked out of that Morgan Wallen concert, and a lot of people realized what people like me and some others have been saying. Maybe she's not saying something because she doesn't disagree with everything. And
Mhm.
perhaps that's just something people need to wrestle with. Also, all things aside, I just want everybody to know that this is not a podcast where we will claim that Caitlin Clark is the face of the league because Asia Wilson is the face of the league. That's undebatable if you are at
I agree.
Undistracted. Okay,
Yes.
I just wanted
Mhm.
to put that out there. All right, let's talk about the men for a little bit, I guess, because the men's World Cup, the MWC, I guess we'll call it, the men's World Cup is taking over America. The fever is rich. People are very excited. But when we talk about this intersection of sports and politics, we are talking about a world game, and ICE has refused to
Yeah.
stay away from the World Cup host
Mhm.
cities. While they said they won't arrest anyone in a World Cup stadium, there's clearly still heightened ICE attention and arrest happening around and outside of the stadiums. Amnesty International is calling what's happening a human rights emergency, while FIFA keeps selling safe, welcoming, and inclusive as their brand. And you've talked before about FIFA caving to host governments and all the way back to One Love LGBTQ, that armband
Mhm.
controversy in
Yep.
Qatar. What do we know about what's actually happening, and what do you think FIFA should be doing about it?
So FIFA's compromised. That's number one. Like we
Mm,
knew with their visits to the White House and how they've capitulated to Trump, like it's like, all right, dude, we get it. Like they're compromised.
yeah.
So expecting FIFA to be a leader in this, despite the fact that the FIFA president, which is kind of crazy, it wasn't that long ago where he gave this really beautiful speech about how they were not just about inclusiveness, but like being very specific about
Mm,
the racial hostility that has often been a part of the game. Like there's a lot of the players that are African or on African teams that have
yeah.
suffered a tremendous amount of racism, and not just Africans, but just Black people, anybody of color, of some kind
Yeah.
of somebody's
Anybody melanated. Yeah.
any black, yes, any melanated skin, they've had indignities of where bananas have been thrown at them, monkey noises being made in the crowds. Like it's happened. It's a real thing. Um, and so, and FIFA had been previously like very outspoken about those things. And yet, this is going to be the same league that is sitting there, sort of singing and tap dancing in the presence of Donald Trump. So
Yeah.
I think expecting anything from them is probably expecting a little too much. But I'm going to say this: despite the shadow that our
Hmm.
current politics and our current administration, despite the disrespect and the dehumanization that they have had from people from other countries, immigrants in general, not
Hmm.
we'll just say non-whites overall. You know what I have been inspired by this World Cup is that the visitors that are here are very much seeing that there's a really big difference between the government and between the
Mm,
people.
Yeah.
Very big difference. And
Yeah.
that monstrosity that took place on the White House lawn of UFC 250, that's not America. What we're seeing in terms of how these fans are being accepted in American cities, how frankly, it's been tickling me. The best content is when they try American foods that are like
Yes.
horribly unhealthy and awful. Like, I would
Yes.
love to know what their cholesterol gonna be when they leave here, because it's gonna be
Listen, I
bad.
know that they were in Walgreens and CVS buying their mad asses afterwards because their systems was not ready for the
Oh my
deep
God.
fried
Like
whatever.
seeing them experience Waffle House for the first time has been hilarious. Waffle House, Cracker Barrel, they've been all up in Golden Corral. They've
Yeah,
been to
they've been in the
Shoney's.
clubs too.
Yes.
There's a video that my favorite piece of content from the World Cup is this German woman getting down in a black club in Houston, Texas. Like she has lost her. I don't know if it was Bun B playing or somebody, but she was like, she had lost her. She was like, this is the most amazing music I've ever heard in my entire life. And
It's
people were just
like,
like, go ahead and get it, mama.
you know what I'm saying? Because black people are like the most welcoming people on the
Indeed.
planet, right? Right? It's like we're like, okay, get yours. That to me has actually sort of, in a way, cleaned up the stench of what we know how this administration feels about visitors. Because I really was super concerned, and this is not to say this has not been happening. I was really fearful that there would just be international incident after. There have been some, like the Somalian referee, for sure. Like there have definitely been some, but I thought it actually would be way worse. And
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of telling in itself. I mean, I'm like, man, that says a lot. But I think this World Cup overall has been beautiful because of how these visitors are experiencing America and understand that we are not defined by the ugliness of Donald Trump. Like we got more to us than that. Like we're not gonna let one person or one administration define who we are and what makes this country special. What makes it special is the ability to share, to blend experiences, to blend
Yeah.
cultures, to still obviously have room to amplify distinct cultures, of course. But like, I think that part to me has been the bigger lesson than the ugliness of this administration.
Yeah. Do you think that there are important lessons for Americans to learn from our visiting friends from around the world during this World Cup
Yes,
season? Yeah.
1,000%. And I think hopefully what they understand is how damaged our reputation around the world is. That's number one,
Mm.
is that people don't
Mhm.
have a positive view of America. And the fact that they came here and were surprised, right?
Yeah.
Tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
And secondly, I hope it communicates that our reputation around the world does matter. And we've
Mhm.
isolated ourselves with this whole bullying mentality of like, we big bad America and we don't need to
Yeah.
share and this and that. It's like we're part of a global humanitarian brother and sisterhood, and we should
That's
embrace
right.
that. We
That's
should
right.
embrace that. And so I hope it's been a lesson for us as well, that we don't have to let this administration define what makes us great. We know what makes us great.
I do think that the growing embrace of soccer, football in America is hopefully a sign of us becoming much better global neighbors and citizens. Because for so long, it was the running joke of like, we don't take soccer seriously here. We only see soccer in the Olympics or when your child is playing on an intramural team where nobody really wins and everybody gets a participation trophy, right? But I live in a city where there are multiple soccer teams and there's a brand new stadium. We're seeing men's soccer, women's soccer, college soccer becoming much more popular, and realizing that that is as global a sport as it is, unlike football, is I'm hoping a good harbinger of things to come in terms of us taking ourselves seriously as a global contributor and not just arrogant Americans who don't know about what's going on around the globe.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think that's a really salient point, because I do think there are a faction of Americans that do look at us that way, and that's disappointing, because we should embrace the mantle of being good global neighbors.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with all of the divisiveness that comes out of the White House, it's like we've taken on, in a very negative way, America versus everybody. And it's like, nah, it's not really meant to actually be that way.
Yeah.
We can still protect the things that matter without having to be assholes. Like those things are not, they're not mutually
Yeah.
exclusive. It's like we don't have to be this way. And so I'm hoping that the presence of this cup and being here has a rub off effect that doesn't just disappear once the World Cup is over.
Absolutely. There are controversies still within this World Cup, especially around federations like Iran, who qualified for the World Cup. But Iranian women are still locked out of watching at stadiums back home. Is it America's position, FIFA's position, players, fans' role to speak out on these things, especially in a tournament that is placing inclusion at the forefront of its branding? Is somebody supposed to weigh in on that contradiction?
Yeah, I think somebody should, because listen, it's funny. I just had this conversation earlier with somebody today as we were discussing this whole Jay-Z Target thing, right?
Lord have mercy.
I know, right? I was like, another one, right? But the thing is, like, you can, once you make inclusiveness part of your brand and part of your selling point as a world game, then you then by default you should take on the responsibility of calling out what is
Yeah.
obviously wrong. It's like you can't make it a part of your brand and be like, oh, but I don't want anything to do with it, when I actually have to talk about something critical and tough and uncomfortable. Like, no. And not to mention FIFA officials, by the way, also taking Iranian flags from the crowd, which I don't know what that's all about. I think that inherent hypocrisy has got to be called out. And sports is actually kind of the perfect place to do it, in the sense of, like, when you look at the different blend of people that are watching this World Cup, it's like you're able to have a conversation in the backdrop of that is very different than having it at the UN or having it other places, because there's a shared community that sports automatically builds. And inside of that shared community is where I think you can see people understand the humanity of people a little bit differently than they might have otherwise. I mean, you were wearing the Knicks shirt. I think that's really what made the Knicks' whole championship run so beautiful. Is seeing the community that they were built. Like, to see people outside of bodegas watching on screens,
That's
on
right.
makeshift screens and projectors that were projecting the game up against brick buildings, and like the community of it all.
Yeah.
And so sports is doing itself a disservice as they don't take advantage of the community that the sport naturally builds, to say, hey, by the way, while you're loving this World Cup doing this, maybe you should think about who's still locked out of access to, like, a basic human rights. Like, not being able to watch the game is, there's a human touch point there. Like, one of the best articles that I've read in the last week, again, reverting it back to the Knicks, and this is in the way that sports can get you to thinking about things differently, is I follow this independent media outlet and read it often, called the Prison Journalism Project. So these are inmates who write about not what life is like on the inside, but also what life is like for them seeing the outside from the inside. And one of the best stories that was written about this week is how the Knicks fans who are incarcerated, how they were experiencing the championship run and what it meant to them. And see, through that, because, we have a certain picture of who's an inmate, and you know what that picture is, and what they don't deserve, and it's okay to dehumanize them and not treat them like actual human beings. And I realize that there's accountability. I understand all that stuff. But the whole point is, it gets you to thinking differently about a group of people because you're using sports to do it. And the World Cup has that same opportunity to do that. So yes, it is incumbent on them. That's not to say that every time you turn into the match, they got to list off all the grievances of all the countries and all of the bullshit that they do. But I think that there is specific moments where we can use sports as a platform to bring about conversation about something bigger.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, before we go, that as we zoom out, the popularity of the W, the incredibly diverse set of fans for the World Cup this year, this Knicks win, which, like, I mean, New York City's on a generational run. I'm very happy for them. Even Charles Oakley got a shout out in front of the owner that banned him from MSG, from Mayor Mamdani, right? Like, we're seeing so many kind of beautiful moments be unearthed. In some ways, I feel like because politics is so dismal, especially domestically, it feels like sports are taking on this bigger role because it's giving people hope. But it also, to your point, is an allegory for societal situations and a form of protest and resistance. And I'm just curious, before we close, are there ways that you are hoping the powers that be, the policymakers, the folks who set not just culture, but the societal agenda learn from these moments of sports? I mean, watching Mamdani use the Knicks run as an opportunity to display his people first policy orientation through the
Mm-hmm.
accessible watch parties and people being able to get close to MSG and, I mean, basically sending out a hey big head text about when the parade was going to be. That actually felt like it could be a message to what politicians and politics could be if we viewed it through a different lens.
Yeah, I mean, I've just really enjoyed seeing his political rise because I think now, to your point, Britt, is that it is one. It's not only showing that there's still power in imagination. Like in order for you to do it, you got to imagine it differently, and that's
That's
exactly
right.
what he did. And I think a lot of politicians, they may mean well, but they get locked
Mhm.
into a very narrow, cookie cutter political vision. And it's like, yeah, they can call him a bunch of names. They could be like, oh, but the Muslim and what he's showing is that y'all are scared of stupid stuff. What
Mm.
matters is what how am I executing in this job and using the full powers at my disposal to change basic things. I mean, you would have
Yeah.
thought it is amazing how he makes things so simple because it's like, yeah, maybe if you paid workers more money, all that snow removal would happen. Like, why are we giving away all this money to like have the snow removal? Yo, just pay my man down the street $30 an hour and he'll take
There it
care of
is.
it.
Come
Like,
on now.
it's the simplest plan in the
Yeah.
world, right? And even with the Knicks celebration, like he knows Knicks fans. He know they off the
Yeah.
hook. This man put fake buses on the street so they could destroy them. I was like, that dude gets it.
He said it
He
ain't
like,
no
they gonna tear
problem.
shit up. Let them tear it up.
We needed
Right?
it. We needed to get rid of this anyway. You helping us take the
Right.
trash.
He basically made, that area like close to Times Square. He turned it into
Yeah.
one big rage room because he knew. And I was just like, that dude gets it. I love that he has used this Knicks run to frankly endear himself. Seeing the reception that Mamdani is getting at these games
That's
and just
right.
being among the people. Like he is, when I was at the Liberty game, maybe like a month or so ago, and he came through there, and I'm telling you, that dude was like a rock star up in there. I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
they mess with him. They
Yeah.
mess with him. So it's like he could be the best mayor that people have seen in a long time up in there. I was like, man, but I love that New York learned a lesson because every
Yeah.
time I saw Eric Adams talk, I was like, and y'all could have had Maya Wiley. Why?
Could you
Pourquoi?
imagine if he was
Pourquoi?
mayor when
I
the
know.
Knicks won? It would have been
Oh my God.
such utter foolishness.
Yes, and I'm
Just
gonna call it. You know
foolishness.
what? Maybe the Knicks, they were dynamic in the playoffs. I don't know if they'd have been able to overcome Eric Adams and James Dolan. I don't know if they could have overcome them both. That's like,
But now they got Mamdani, they
now
got
they got
Jordan
Mamdani.
Woods bag, they got Carl
Yep,
Anthony Towns, they got everything they need. Anything is possible.
anything is possible.
Jemele Hill, you are brilliant and hilarious as always. Thank you for joining us to talk a little bit of sports, a little bit of gender, a little bit of race, a little bit of politics, and always to talk about remaining undistracted. We'll see you soon.
All right, I appreciate you, and I'm glad to fill in for Tiffany Cross. I appreciate that.
Tiffany will be back soon. She's gonna be upset that you took her sports slot, but I'll
Yeah.
smooth it over with her. It's fine.
Okay.
All right, y'all. I'm joined once again today for our Untrending News by our group chat bestie, author, and gender and women's studies professor, Dr. Brittney Cooper. What's up, Coop?
What's up, B squared?
Listen, this week, you already know, we got to talk about the Obamas. Last week was a very Black week. Juneteenth happened, but it was particularly Black in Chicago because the opening of the Barack Obama Presidential Center was done with extravagance. It was quite a grand affair. The Obamas were, of course, joined by all the living presidents except he who shall not be named. Michelle Obama gave a pitch-perfect speech with some excellent comedic timing, as she's known to do, and I like that she's feeling a little free to do it. There were lots of made-for-TV moments, including George W. Bush bringing Obama a box of Altoids, her boo, W. It called back to when the internet was shocked to find out, of course, that the two of them were on friendly terms when he passed her an Altoid at John McCain's funeral back in 2018. like, it was a little corny, it was a little hokey, but most of the internet loved it. But it does raise the question of whether or not we need to be showing any love or any fondness toward Republicans at all during this moment of political upheaval in the country. I know that the Overton window has moved, but I'm old enough to remember who W was to all of us and just how many children got left behind, Coop. What do you think?
I mean, listen, there's no love lost between me and W. And in fact, in so many ways, he's the architect of the misery that we're experiencing now. He's the person who appointed John Roberts to the Supreme Court. It's the Roberts Court that has decimated all of our civil rights gains in the swiftness of this century. So, I think we can name that. I think we can name how his handling of 9/11 led us into 2 decades of war, both messes that Democrats had to clean up. And yet, I also want to offer that I just think that shit is complicated, and that when you're sitting there next to someone, like the demand that Michelle perform our political outrage toward him, I think is not fair. And I also think that there is no win for her if she does that, right? Because she also has a narrative about her that she had to overcome, which is this notion of the angry Black woman. And a lot of her ability to sort of own and command the space has been her fighting from a space underneath all of those societal projections of her. And I also think that we live in a world where people act like they don't go to work with coworkers every single day and bosses every single day who have different political beliefs than they do, and that they can't be cordial, civil, and even friendly.
This is exactly what I thought about, because how many of us go to work every single day and pass Altoids or have inside jokes with people who, like, outside of work hours, we are not finna kick it. We don't vote the same. We don't think the same. We don't have the same taste in music. I don't go where you go. You don't go where I go. But from 9 to 5, we keep it cute at the very least. I also just think that, like, part of what you're saying about the fact that she can't win is so true. I want us to remember that people are constantly asking Michelle Obama to run for president. Now, this is proof positive that she should never run for president, because people clearly don't listen to Black women, because she said a million times, I don't want to be president. So stop trying to recruit that lady to a job that she don't want to do, because you all swear that you want to give Black women the top job and then you don't do it when you have the chance. But anyway, I think that's relevant because she is consistently polled as one of the most popular political figures, if not the most, out of all of them. And so she's constantly walking this really fine line and enjoying that level of admiration from people has been positive for candidates. Like, let's be really clear, her being popular and then showing up on the stump for certain people, showing up with When We All Vote and all of the work that she's doing around voter registration, like, it matters that people like her, so that when she says, hey, go vote or think about voting for this person, that they actually listen to her. And if she gave, W the hand, like maybe we all wanted, or the finger that maybe some people wanted to give, like, I don't know that she could actually be out here exercising that kind of power and influence that we very much need her to exercise. So it is complicated. It's highly nuanced. I don't know any women at work that don't understand having to be cool with somebody that you might not always agree with. And then, of course, there were detractors that were like, well, they don't feel like the Obamas have good politics either. So everybody's going to be mad on something about something.
No,
but at least the breath was fresh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And look, I mean, the other side of that is, and by that same logic, the fact that she is friends with him also means that if she were to run for president, she would lose, because it would be held up as evidence of her political duplicity and the ways in which she's a centrist and the ways in which the Democrats and the Republicans are not any different. Like, we can already write the arguments. They are already set up.
So predictable.
And so I just think that she has to live her life. And I also think we got to remember that as much as we identify with Michelle Obama, her life is not our life. And the folks who are in that small cadre of people who have been at the highest levels of American power have an experience. And look, and frankly, I think that they're probably a support group, because whatever George Bush was or wasn't, he is not Donald Trump. I don't care what anybody says. And so I was really sitting in my house going, "Ooh, I wonder what it was like in the green room." And were they like, "Well, how you coping? Because what did this man do today?" And because they're watching the whole of the 20th century American project be destroyed day by day, and they understand the danger literally better than anyone else in the country, and they have to sit around now as private citizens knowing what they know and watch it happen. And while I don't agree with many of them on stage in the ways that they have handled many and varied aspects of American foreign policy. What
Yeah.
I can say is that I always came from the idea that they cared about America and that they
You
wanted us to
know,
be okay and to be safe. And I don't have that same set
basics.
of assumptions about the current leadership, right?
Not at all. Our second item, which is a very sober one, this past Wednesday marked the 4-year anniversary of the Supreme Court's Dobbs versus Jackson decision, which undid the constitutional right to abortion that had stood for almost 5 decades under Roe versus Wade and sent the issue of abortion rights back to the states. And we all know what happened then. 13 states have fully banned abortion, except in a few instances to save the mother's life. 7 states have banned abortion after 6 to 12 weeks of pregnancy. There have been horrific stories of women who have died or been placed in grave danger because of these bans and doctors' confusion around all of these new laws. And at the same time, this has also strengthened other networks for receiving care and made it really clear that Americans do not want these bans on the books. Lots of folks got out and enshrined the right to an abortion in their state constitutions in places where folks thought it was frankly impossible because that Dobbs decision animated a whole lot of people. So it wasn't a pure defeat. But 4 years later, I'm curious, Coop, what you think of the legacy of the impact of the Dobbs decision and how it's impacted the abortion movement looking back.
It has been nothing short of devastating. And part of this is because Roe versus Wade was never what women deserved in the first place. It was in itself a fairly limited measure that said that a woman had the right to privacy, that she had the right to make decisions with her doctor about her health care. And under the banner of her right to privacy, then if abortion was a medical decision she needed to make, she was allowed to do that. And now that has been taken away. And we have seen local municipalities arresting people. They have tried to arrest people for leaving the state to go to other states to get abortion care, as though you can track people's surveillance. They have arrested a father in my home state of Louisiana for shipping medical abortion drugs to his daughter who needed them, right? They have also tried to weaponize the foster care system against parents who assist their children in getting abortion care, saying that it makes them unfit parents. That's just a few of the ways that they are weaponizing the kind of carceral state against folks. And so my issue among many is this is also a function of Christian nationalism meets patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
And so this imposition of Christian nationalist ideology on everybody is deeply dangerous, and it is also dangerous for the white women who are its primary adherents, right?
Hello.
And at the same time, one of the things we keep missing in this country is that this fascist takeover of the country is not just about race. It's not just about capitalism and class and money. It is also about patriarchy. It is about controlling reproduction. Every system of power wants to control money, wants to control time, wants to control who has access to power and property, and wants to control reproduction, because in doing so, they control the future. And this is a thing that we have missed, and we think that like feminism is some random errant movement of wild ladies that want to burn bras. And all that feminists have ever been saying is that if you cannot have bodily autonomy over whether or not to have children, then essentially you exist in a state of slavery. And the last thing I will say is that it is Black women specifically who created the framework for reproductive justice.
Amen.
And that framework is very simple. It says that we have the right to have children, to not have children, and to parent the children that we have in safe and healthy environments.
It really should be that simple. This should not be up for debate. It should not be simple. Because it's Black women who designed it, of course, everybody feels some type of way about it. I'm really thankful for groups like In Our Own Voice, who have helped people codify what reproductive justice should look like in this day and age, and how we can talk about it with each other, how we can push on it legislatively, how we can really build a movement around understanding that abortion is a part of the issue, but it's not the entire issue. Still, if there is no access to abortion pills, medical abortions, surgical abortions, we cannot reasonably talk about reproductive justice. It's interesting that abortion pills have soared in popularity, especially in the states where those restrictive bans have really put people in danger. And now, of course, the future of the abortion pill is under duress, and that access is uncertain after a lower court in Louisiana ruled that they can't be prescribed via telehealth. And the Supreme Court actually issued an injunction to keep the telehealth abortion pills accessible while the case makes its way through the appeals process. So right now, the pills are safe. But this should really be waking people up who, like you said, just think that feminism has nothing to do with them, or that this is a red state, blue state thing. Because when we're talking about crossing state lines for care, when we're talking about access to prescriptions over telehealth, everybody is in danger. And abortion is a medical procedure that 1 in 4 adult women will have in their lifetime. I just can't wait for the day when we get to the point where this is no longer a manufactured, polarizing political football. Because to be clear, it was manufactured. Abortion is as old as the human state is. Abortion was, and Roe versus Wade was selected as the target when the segregationists lost their fight to keep Black kids out of their schools and Black people out of their facilities. They needed to grow the Christian right and build a stronger political movement. And they said, we can recruit all the Catholics if we stand up against abortion. So they created this conservative Christian wave that we've continued to see that has deepened the Christian nationalism that we're facing right now. But all of those roots, Billy Graham, Pat Robertson, all of those folks, they got on the phone and they said, listen, if we're not going to win by keeping things segregated, then this is how we're going to win. This was manufactured, and we're missing just how much a normal part of society this actually is, and how much access should actually be guaranteed for everybody.
And it makes me really angry when that disinformation campaign that they're engaged in then comes into Black communities, because they will use it as a political football against us. They are not doing the things that make it possible for families to actually be okay. And that is why more people are opting out of having children younger. And so this has been devastating, but the only way that we're going to be able to stand against it is to recognize that I don't even think it's sufficient anymore, the old explanations we used to have, like, that's your personal decision. No, we actually need a better understanding. And that better understanding is that abortion care is some of the safest medical care you can get. That's why you can typically do it as an outpatient procedure unless it's in the case of an emergency. Typically the folks who need abortion care are people who already have children. So this idea that folks do not value children or that they're irresponsible is also completely ridiculous, right? And so this is just a normal part of what it means to be a human being that can bear children. And this should be a part of the spectrum of care. And when it is not, you continue to have all of these preventable tragedies of women bleeding out, of women having to wait until their bodies go septic before they can access abortions, when their bodies are not, are rejecting pregnancy. All of that is not just irresponsible and rooted in disinformation, but it is also deeply inhumane, and it should be illegal. And so we just need to be clear.
I get frustrated with people who, as you bring up those kind of examples, say that we shouldn't talk in these extremes because it scares people, or we need to have a more rational or reasonable conversation about it than to talk about those cases. But you forced us into this position where nobody wants to have a rational and reasonable conversation about it, because when women and people with uteruses are walking in to get care, they are seeing some of the most dastardly signs, some of the most wild insults, right? Some of the most extreme imagery coming at them when they're simply trying to make a decision about their healthcare, an informed decision, a careful decision about their healthcare. And so, like, if you forced our hand to this place where this is happening to people, and then you tell us it's uncivilized to talk about it, what are we really doing here? I think that the extreme nature that people want to reject around this conversation means that we're not honest about the extreme nature of our current condition and how much these restrictions and these bans are putting people in danger. To be clear, when people were already in danger before, because like you said, Roe was the floor. It was not the ceiling. It was deeply imperfect. Democrats are going to have to get serious at the very least about stating that they want to get clear on reinstating Roe and then building from there, because there's not a path forward without it. I'm thinking as we close about time that we got to spend with legendary abortion rights activist Cecile Richards here on Undistracted shortly before she passed away. She was just as fierce and raw, as honest as ever. And I wanted to revisit a moment from that conversation. Doug, roll the clip.
We're going to have to fight this on the ground and have a national right to bodily autonomy that affects all 50 states, not just the ones that have the benefit of being able to pass it through legislation.
Cecile, we miss you, and we are so grateful that your courage and your continued tenacity, even to the very end when your voice was shaking and you were just fighting to live, stayed focused on freedom for all of us. We appreciate you. And y'all, thanks for being Undistracted. Coop, we'll see you real soon.
See you soon.
So listen, y'all, I gotta admit, I'm exhausted. One of my children has an ear infection. The other one is completely bouncing off of the walls. It's summertime. I'm hot. I'm perimenopausal. I'm postpartum. And I'm an insomniac with ADHD. I am burnt out. So honestly, watching the NBA finals for me was a respite. It was something I could do and completely turn off my brain and just enjoy and root for the 53-year underdog. I'll be totally honest with y'all, I wasn't even interested in the finals, not for the MNBA as it were, until we got those incredible legendary bars. My Mayor Muslim, my Bagel Jewish, my Christian Dior, Knicks in 4. They got it in 5, but that's not the point. The point is it was clearly a cultural moment that called all of us into being with each other, to being excited about something for once, to being glad for people who have been waiting for 5 decades to see this victory, to see Spike Lee and Olivia Benson, Mariska Hargitay flooding the court and getting excited. And there was something about that joy that I think we were all glad to hold on to for a second, even if we weren't tried and true Knicks fans, because a lot of us are tired. So let's keep finding those moments of joy that not only help us get a smile, but also break through for the conversations that are worth happening. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being. And as always, thanks for doing. I'm Brittany Packnett Cunningham. Let's go get free.